Yeah, what?
Transfer to Marion?
Ball State, IU, Purdue, the Ohio State. Are you going to Miami of Ohio?
No, I'm going to University of Ohio.
Hold on.
All right, here we go. Last one, number 5. Last question. Here we go. Pay attention. You don't have much time. Nothing here is new. You have done this and done this and done this. Our job is to find all of this information. So here we go. Where is my center? 1, 2. Now, on the quiz, some of you are still not paying close enough attention. These could be turned around. But even if they're turned around, the center is still at 1, 2 because it's always x comma y, right? So please make sure that you're paying attention. X, y. All right, what does the score tell me? It's under X. If it's under X, it says go left and right 2. What does the 16 tell me?
Up and down.
Up and down 4. Now this is a hyperbola. It's a minus. Even if you don't see that, we ask for the asymptotes. It has to be a hyperbola, right? If I'm asking for asymptotes, so you know you're going to draw a box. You're not going to connect these with an oval. You're going to connect them with a box. And the asymptotes are the diagonals of the box. And we're going to write those equations after this. Right now, though, I need to draw my curve in. Now, this picture could have a hyperbola going this way, or it could have one going this way. Which is it? The side. We know it's the side because x comes first. So right here, at this point on the box, that's where my hyperbola starts. That red dot right there on the box is a vertex. So is this one. So I have this huge, big, fat hyperbola. And those 2 red points are the V's, the vertices. So what are those 2 red points? Remember how you got them? You went back and forth 2, right? So that's 3, 2 and negative 1, 2. And like I said, I ran your test off on graph paper just like your quiz. So hopefully that will help you in your counting. Now, this axis that connects the red dots, the vertices, is called the transverse axis. So in the blank that says TA, that means transverse axis. And since you went back and forth 2, it would be 4 long. The other axis, which is the up and down one in this problem, is 8. Why is it 8? Because I went up and down 4. All right, everybody with me? Now, the next thing we have to find are the foci. So where are my foci? My foci, actually they're inside the curve, but you're right, they're back and forth here, farther this way from those vertices, right? Now tell me what you know about them. Look at all the points on this line. What do we know about them? The y is 2. It's something, 2. I keep telling you, at least write that down. If you forget, let's say you have test anxiety, you forget everything. You can see that. You don't even have to you don't have to know anything. You just write it down. Now, what about the x's? Well, that takes a little work. In order to find the x's, you have to know how far it is from the center to the focus. You have to know how far you need to back up. You remember how we do it in a hyperbola? Add the denominators I'm gonna go ahead and write it as 2 root 5. Are you okay with that? 16 plus 4? And then we start right here.
1 plus 2.
Exactly. And we go forward that far, and we go backward that far.
Where did
Very
the 1
good.
come from?
That's my starting point. Remember, you build from the center, and your center is already at 1. So you're starting at 1. Now, when Mrs. Ford plans well, that works out to be a whole number.
Yeah.
Like 6. Well, when it works out to be a whole number, you would just start at 1 and go forward 6 and backward 6, right? This one just isn't, so we're going forward and backward 2 root 5. Now you might say, Mrs. Ford, I don't even know where 2 root 5 is. It doesn't matter. Remember, I'm not grading your picture. Picture doesn't matter. Okay, last thing, asymptotes. The asymptotes are lines, right? So what is our framework for lines? Y equals mx plus b. And because there are 2 asymptotes, we get to do it twice. So the first thing I need is my slope. I went up 4 and over 2. So my slope is 4 over 2, which is 2. So this slope is going to be 2, and this slope is going to be negative 2. Remember, they are always the same. One is positive and one is negative. All right, now I need a y and an x, because I got to plug in a y and an x. Where am I going to get that? I'm going to get that right here. Right here. Always use the center. Everything starts at the center. So I'm going to put in 1 and 2. So 2 and 1. Make sure you're putting in 1 for x and 2 for y. Now I got b as 0, so the equation of this line is y equals 2x plus 0. And over here I'm going to do the same thing. It's a lot easier when they aren't fractions, isn't it? So y equals negative 2x plus 4. Anybody have an issue with that? Alright, let's look at the next practice test. We are not going to get through this whole thing. So what I need you to do is look through it and tell me which problems do you want to do. Practice test 2. I have one I want to do, and that's 1b. Would you look with me at problem 1b? We are on practice test 2. This is problem 1b. And it says write the equation of the circle. And it has a diameter whose endpoints are 2, 6 and negative 4, 8. So envision a circle. That's supposed to be a circle. It's not a very good circle. In fact, it's a terrible circle. But imagine that you have a circle, and this is the diameter. So we're going to write the equation of the circle. Now, do you remember what those look like? What do circles look like? X squared, y squared, r squared? Remember when you do your completing the square? Isn't that what you end up with? That's a circle? All right, what do I need to know? I need to know the center. Now, won't the center be right in between these 2 points? So you have a negative 4 and a 2. What is the average of negative 4 and 2? That will be the middle value, the midpoint. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. Divided by 2 is negative 1. Remember, when you average, you add and divide by 2, right? So I'm averaging my x's, negative 4 and 2 divided by 2. Now do the same thing with the y's. 8 plus 6, 14 divided by 2. So your midpoint, your center, is negative 1, 7. Now how do I put that into my equation?
Plus 1.
X plus 1, y minus 7. Right? Now what? Now I need to find my radius, right? How am I going to find that distance? What am I going to have to do to find that distance?
Isn't it y, x?
I got to find the distance, that's right. So my formula says take your x's and subtract them, take your y's and subtract them. You guys can't forget stuff like the distance formula. It's too important. Negative 1 minus 2. Negative 3 squared. 9. 7 minus 6 squared. 1. So the radius is the square root of 10. Now what goes into my equation? Not the square root of 10, the square root of 10 squared, which is 10. Now these are all test questions, you know that. So if you need to practice that one a little more, go back through it. It's a little bit tricky.
What, can you give us the distance formula with the variables?
It's x minus x squared and y minus y squared. All right, I wanted to do that one. We don't have a lot of time. So what else do you feel you need to practice in all the rest of the questions? Which one? E and F, is that in part 1? So part 1, E and F, let's do E. Part 1, E, says write the equation of a hyperbola. Now, here is what you need to remember, kids. What does a hyperbola equation look like? It does not look like this. You're going to have something squared over something minus something squared over something equal to 1, right? We're doing E, which says write the equation of a hyperbola with a center at 2, 4. It opens horizontally, and the transverse axis is 10, and the conjugate axis is 6. Okay, everybody looking with me at the problem? Don't these late arrival days seem like they drag on forever? So I know you're a little bit tired and you just had lunch, but you really need to pay attention because like I said, we're not going to get to that class tomorrow, I don't think. All right, so here we go. Got it? All right, help me build the equation. What does all this tell me? Okay, it tells me because it opens sideways that the x term is going to come first, right? That matters. Pay attention to that. Now, I also know my center is 2, 4. So that'll be x minus 2, y minus 4. Everybody okay with that? Now, what about those denominators? What's going to go there?
5.
Well, now wait. That's not going to be 5. That's going to be 25. It says the transverse axis is 10. Didn't I go back and forth 5? Which means this has to be a 25. I went up and down 6, or up and, I went, the whole thing was 6. So I went up and down 3, which means that is a 9. Got it? Now the one right under it is another hyperbola, So it's gonna have the same style of equation. So it's something squared minus something squared equals 1. This time, 2, 3, and 2, -5 are the endpoints of the transverse axis. That means the hyperbola looks like that. Because transverse means those are vertices. If you can't remember that, I don't know how to help you. Transverse vertices. Now, there's some other stuff here, I think. But what does this help me with? Does this help me with anything, just this much of it? Well, heck yeah. What's it tell me about my hyperbola? It opens up and down, which, yeah, Deshani, y comes first. Plus, don't I know my center has to be right in the middle of this?
2.
So where would that be?
2, -1.
2, -1. Very good, Deshani. 2, -1. Now watch it when you put in your equation. It's going to be x minus 2, y plus 1. It's easy to mess up. Try to be on the alert. I need my denominators. Do I have enough information there? What do you think about those denominators? What's 16, Joseph? You're right. Y is 16. Now, how did Joseph know y was 16? Or under y is 16. You went up and down 4. Look. You went up and down 4. Very good. Now, in order to get the x, you're going to have to look back at the problem. It says the conjugate axis is at 0, -1, and 4, -1. That's my conjugate axis. So that tells me I'm going back and forth 2, which means
4.
All right, what else? Who else? Calm down. Find something else for us to practice. What else do we need to practice? Do we need to do a parabola? Parabola? No?
Sleep.
We need to practice sleep.
1C. 1C says write the equation of an ellipse with a center. Okay, now this is an ellipse. So my format for an ellipse is that. Now remember Mrs. Ford gave you a hint. If you look at the other pages of the test, I give you equations of an ellipse, right? And on the other, like on problem 4, that's an ellipse equation. So if you can't remember what they look like, look at the rest of the test and you'll find one. You're going to write an equation that looks like number 4. Okay? Now, what do we know about it? Well, we know its center is at 2, 3. Well, wait a second, folks. If the center is at 2, 3, can't I just put this in? That's easy. Now, it says the major axis is 12, the minor axis is 4, and it's stretched horizontally. That means your ellipse has this shape. It's this way. And the major axis is 12. That distance is 12. Which means we went forward and backward 6. Which means this number is a 36. The minor axis, this whole thing, is 4, which means we went up and down 2, which means that has to be a 4. All right, Colleen? Alright, who else sees one? Anybody?
D.
D? 4D, or 1D, I mean?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
And for the ellipse, like when will Y go first?
Never.
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 That's
Okay,
clutch.
it's a plus, so we always can have X first. Alright, so add another ellipse. This is problem D. The endpoints are negative 2, 1, and negative 2, negative 7, and 0, negative 3, and negative 4. Alright, so here's, basically they gave me the vertices, there's my ellipse. That's what they gave me. Alright, so what do you think we ought to do now?
I agree with you.
Well, what do I need for my equation? Don't I need to know where my center is?
I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
-2, -3.
So my center is going to be right here, isn't it? Can you tell what point that is?
-2,
-2, -3. That's going to be real easy to tell on your graph paper. So that means X plus 2, Y plus 3. You got it? Now what else do I need to know? My denominators. How do I figure out what my denominators are?
Under X is 4.
I have to figure out how far up and down and how far sideways I went, right? So how far sideways am I moving?
4, so 2.
2 this way and 2 this way? Which means that number has to be a 4. I'm interested in how much up and down each one is, not the total, each one. So how far up am I going? Yeah, and 4 down, which means this number is a 16. Perfect. While you're looking for another one to do, let me hand back the quizzes.
Nobody was sick here. I said nobody.
These were 17 points.
38.
So I want you to see these.
15.8.
Yep,
Me? That's clutch.
at least
I knew those were going to be wrong. That doesn't surprise me.
sometimes I forget to do that.
Oh, it was probably minus 8, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What'd you get? You got 18.8.
Wait, where?
17.
So they were at 18.
17.
Yo, I got a plus 8/3 for that one. For what? For
Oh, I forgot the whole
pause.
Return on the back.
It was minus 16. So that's good.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this is your stuff.
What'd you get? Wow, I'm so sweet. I got my What'd you get for that? 4.2 and I got it wrong. Damn. Who got that right? Did you get it right?
Got what right?
Nope.
You get what right?
Everybody missed us.
I got 8.5.
You got 8.5. I got 4 too.
Okay,
Johnny, what did you get?
so now what we need to talk about is
Oh, it's
any
X equals
question
3.
you have on the quiz. Does anybody have a question on the quiz?
Not so necessary.
Something you missed, because these exact questions are gonna be on the test, you know that.
Can we do
1, 2, 3, or 4?
1?
1. 1 is a parabola.
The easiest problem.
Bro, watch out.
The whole thing.
Joseph, be nice.
Alright.
Only this one.
We-
It's the same one. Watch out.
Have a parabola.
I mean, if it's easy, why'd you get it wrong?
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, remember these are the ones that 2 of the blanks are just gimmies. So half the question, you can just look at the equation and tell me, where is my vertex?
Where's your vertex? -1, 2.
Very good. You even got it in the right order. Good job. You gotta be careful with these. It's always x comma y. What is my focal width? No, focal width.
16, boy.
16.
What? Oh,
Remember, sometimes that number is negative. In the focal width, it's always positive, okay? Asia, you paying attention, sweet pea? You didn't get your paper back? Oh, where were you? You came in late. I thought you were absent. Where were you?
He ain't got no excuse.
Wait,
Yeah. Most likely.
she never collects these.
Oh no, she never collects the quiz.
She collects these.
Just collects. Boy, you look like a. I don't even know.
All right.
Yes, you do.
Now, the rest of
Don't
this
catch
is
me.
tricky. -1, 2. In order to answer the other 2 questions, you have to know which way this guy opens. Your choices are left, right, up, and down. You look at 2 things. Y squared means sideways, and a negative means left. So this guy opens to the left. That means your focus is here. You are going to back up a distance to get to your focus. To find that distance, which we call P, we remember that this number is always 4 P's. So 4 P's are 16, which means P is 4. I'm going to back up 4 from this point. So that puts me at -5, 2. That's my focus. And then if I came back 4, I'm going to go forward 4. And some of you say, okay, if you go forward 4, that's the 0.32. But remember, that's a line. It crosses the x-axis at 3. So this is the line x equals 3.
Yes, you do.
All right, Chris, did that help you?
It did.
What's with all that facial hair, by the way?
What facial hair?
On your face.
What are you? That's like here. You have it too.
Who else?
Oh, this is you. Okay. Chris?
No, they aren't. I noticed that right off the bat because he was dancing up there. We're gonna deal with all of it, but right now we got to practice for our test. So anything else from
Now we
this
throwing
quiz?
hands up to this.
All right. All right. Number 2 is an ellipse, and we are supposed to find the vertices, the foci, the center, and the major and the minor axis. So here we go. My center, Colleen, should be at 1, -2. You okay with that? To find my vertices, I'm going to go sideways 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would put me at 1. I'm sorry. I wrote 5. That puts me at 6, -2. And then I'm going to go backwards 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll be at -4, -2. Is that okay? Now I'm going to go up and down 3. So that puts me at 1, 1. And 1, -5. So there's my ellipse. Now, the foci are always going to be on the major axis. Okay? In order to find them, I need to know how far to go, front and back. To find the distance from the center to the focus, I subtract these two denominators and take the square root.
16.
Remember, with a hyperbola, you add them. With an ellipse, you subtract them. So that gives me 16 or 4. So I'm going to start right here. If I go forward 4, I get 5, -2. And if I go backwards 4, I get -3, -2. Those are my foci. The major axis, because I went forward and backwards 5, is 10. And the minor axis is 6.
No hoods in the building, Joseph.
I do what? What hood?
When you take the square root of that.
Yep. For an ellipse. For a hyperbola, you do the opposite. You add.
What did
What in that land?
win?
Stop.
Yes, I'll do some make it tomorrow morning. How you make a makeup. You should have gotten that down. Right?
I didn't know that.
Right. All right. Now, let's see what
Not this cathedral and cathedral Bible. See, now you can think about
we have a test on Friday, people. Friday. I don't know.
This is a message brought to you by the cathedral students.